Talking about Alzheimer's, the push to end Alzheimer's, this disease that affects so many people. Of course, there's a big Alzheimer's walk that's coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that. But happy to have with us our guest, Executive Director of Tennessee Alzheimer's Association, Dawne Bunn, and Melissa Cuthbertson. She is the walk chair with the Alzheimer's Association. You shared a little of your personal story, and I think so many people can relate to stories like yours. How hard was it for you, your family, to come to terms with the fact your dad was getting dementia? You know, what about that?
It was very difficult because I think dementia was an unfamiliar word to all of us. You know, what is dementia? And so actually, and my mom, I think that was a challenging part because she was in denial. She had a really difficult time accepting that this was part of what was coming. And so on a conversation I had with her, I had to just tell her, Mom, Dad has dementia. And she broke down and she just in tears and said, what are we going to do? And I think she could see some of the signs, which made it challenging, them living out of state, and I couldn't see them. So I didn't see a lot of it going on as I was working and caring for my family. So that answers.
What made you think or know that he had dementia?
Yeah.
What made you say that to your mom?
Actually, one of the events that I can go back to and think about was my oldest daughter was graduating high school here in Nashville, Tennessee, and they'd come to see her for her graduation, and I was cooking dinner in the kitchen, and my dad and I always loved to have pasta. And so I just held up 2 different boxes of pasta, and I said, hey, Dad, what would you like? Would you like the bow tie, or would you like the curlies? And he couldn't tell me. And so I answered for him, and that was one of my first signs.
And what was that? Was it his speech, or was it his memory? What was that? How did it manifest itself?
For him, it really was a speech. He was a very talkative person. He was a pharmacist himself of nearly 50 years, so he'd seen and talked. You've got to be a very talkative, outgoing person being in that field and that profession. So he, in his dealing with patients and talking with patients, he was always communicating. So to see that part disappear from him was one of the most challenging things because the words just wouldn't come out. It was more body language for him.
And you talked about moving them here. They moved here to Nashville. What about the caregiving process? How hard was it to find care, and I would assume things got more difficult as time progressed.
They did, because the disease doesn't stop. It continues to progress. And what we started doing is I called the Alzheimer's Association, and they gave me a list of resources to call for facilities and homes and retirement centers or long-term care facilities. And so I just mapped them out. Each day that I had during a week, I would go by and introduce myself and look, and then just ask, can I see your facility? Some you had to make appointments for, but that allowed me to look at different areas. And also a big consideration for us was being close enough to them as far as distance-wise and time-wise, because we knew they were going to need us close to them to be able to help them.
And so how how common is a story like Melissa's?
I mean, it's common, but everyone's journey is a little bit different. I think, you know, for us, we want to make sure that families know that we're here to support them, and we want to make sure that there's community resources. We'll always want to encourage and support, you know, the opportunity to have an in-home caregiver if that's the best thing for a family. But sometimes the best thing for a family is being in an assisted living facility, and you know, it's really about, you know, is that person, do they have a spouse in the home, or are they living alone? You know, will they accept a caregiver to come in every day and take care of them, or is that something that they are not comfortable with? And so there's just so many different factors, and I think what's great about the Alzheimer's Association and our 24/7 helpline, they have literally seen every scenario. One story I heard was, you know, a caller shared that her father just insisted on wearing the same clothes every day. And the helpline, I mean, it was such a simple solution. They were like, go buy 7 pairs of the exact same clothes, keep them clean. And it's just those simple solutions that you really can't think of in a crisis situation. And you know that you need to care for your loved one in the best way possible. But having that additional support, calling the helpline, sometimes if you need it, you reach a master's level clinician, again, available in 200 languages. So, you know, because there's so many cultural factors as well. And, you know, I think for us, it's really about what that family is going through, what that family's needs are, because again, they're not all the same. You know, Melissa's journey, you know, she just mentioned that her father, it wasn't a memory thing that they noticed at first. It was challenges with speech. And so, but if people are having concerns, they definitely should mention their concerns to their physician and just share, you know, I'm having challenges with my memory, and you know, I may want to pursue, you know, even just achieving a baseline with a neurologist is a great place to start, especially if somebody is having concerns or the family members are noticing some differences.
Things you're talking about as far as in-home care or assisted living care are very expensive.
They are.
How do people deal with that? What do you recommend for people that are struggling with those costs?
I mean, they definitely should look into what's available and offered through the state. And, you know, there is some support that is available. You know, there's different options for each family, and the physician can sometimes help a family figure out what the best option might be for them financially. You know, so often we hear that if you have resources, you go kind of in one direction, and then if you don't have resources and you qualify for Medicaid, then you have those options. It's the people that are sort of living in the middle that have a challenge because they may not be able to afford, you know, a lot of these memory care units are $6,000, $8,000 a month. But I wouldn't allow that to hinder somebody for asking for help or getting their cognition checked, because there are options, and you know, that's what we as the association, we're here to help and provide resources and guidance.
So we just appreciate you sharing your story.
Sure.
So your dad, you come here, you moved from Oklahoma, you bring him here. What happened after that? How long was he able to stay in his home? Did he stay in his home the whole time? And he died in 2017, is that right?
Right. So he was here about a year. The disease went pretty quickly, and Alzheimer's does typically go quickly compared to the other types of dementia. And so when we moved him here, we temporarily thought we were going to move him into an apartment while they were going to have their own ranch here in Nashville, as they had in Oklahoma. And we kept dealing with the disease and starting with all the physicians, and then different injuries. He began to get weaker, so different injuries began to take place. So then that added on physical therapy on top of your primary care visit and the neurologist that we began to see as well. So, yeah. Okay.
And this is a tough, I'm going to ask you this.
Sure.
What causes generally the death when in Alzheimer's? How is it fatal? I mean, we know that you lose your memory, that kind of thing. How does it cause, how is it fatal?
Well, if you are living with Alzheimer's, you currently will die with Alzheimer's. So unfortunately, there may be comorbidities that do eventually cause the death, but that does not mean that they have not died with Alzheimer's. So, you know, it really, again, just depends. Each person is very different, but it does start hindering things like balance and the ability to breathe and, you know, the ability to move. And we know that when you no longer are moving on a regular basis or, you know, receiving proper what you need, you know, air and things, obviously you're going to eventually that will deteriorate an individual, and they will pass from the disease, but sometimes it's the comorbidity as well.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break, and I want to ask about the research that you all are helping to fund, the Alzheimer's Association. We'll take a break. If you want to call in, there's the number. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.